working their tails off to keep Americans safe. The FBI that I see is people, decent people, committed to the highest principles of integrity and professionalism and respect.
That was FBI Director Chris Wray responding to the president's assertion that his agency is in, quote, tatters, following all the bombshell revelations we've been talking about of anti-Trump bias by the Bureau's former top investigator, Peter Strzok. And while that hearing was unfolding, Fox News reported another potential conflict involving an Obama holdover. They're coming out of the woodwork, this time at the Justice Department. Bruce Ohr was demoted and stripped of his title Associate Deputy Attorney General yesterday morning after the House Intel Committee learned that he met during the 2016 campaign with Christopher Steele, the former British spy who authored the infamous Russian dossier. Joining us now to discuss is Republican Congressman from Florida, Matt Gaetz, and Democratic strategist Joel Payne, who was Deputy National Press Secretary and former Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid's guy. Great to see you both. Joel, let's start with you. There are a lot of people working for this investigation who are political adversaries of the president. And if the shoe were on the other foot, and this was an investigation of Hillary Clinton, and the investigation was stacked with anti-Hillary prosecutors, you guys would be going crazy. We have Peter Strzok in this case, who we've discovered has been sending anti-Trump texts during the debates. He was pretty much at every big interview. What are your thoughts on the status of the FBI now after seeing this play out?
Well, it's interesting because the shoe's actually been on the other foot before, right? If we go back about 23 years to Ken Starr and his investigation, you know, if you do some research, you'll see that actually 4 of his top 5 deputies were all Bush, Scalia, Reagan appointee types. I think actually Alex Azar, who was just appointed President Trump's HHS secretary, was 4th in line to Ken Starr, and he was a Scalia law clerk.
So what?
So my point is you can't invalidate.
Wait a second.
So you can't invalidate. So
wait,
Laura, you can't invalidate.
Scalia, I just got to no, because you cannot equate. I clerked on the court. Now, a Scalia law clerk. By the way, Justice Scalia, I knew him well, and he hired liberals, conservatives, moderates, hired kids from all different backgrounds, as does Justice Thomas. There's no litmus test there. It's about merit. So you're saying that if someone clerks on the Supreme Court for a more conservative, judicially conservative justice, that person should be barred from an investigation?
No, what I'm saying...
Because I wouldn't have a problem with that.
What I'm saying
That's ridiculous.
Is that you're asking if the shoe is on the other foot, and I'm pointing out...
None of the people... Alex Azar was in no way, or any of these guys who worked on the Starr hearing, they didn't have this type of internal conflicts where they were representing the other side. That's a difference. And, Congressman, you've been all over this. Representing one party, the White House or the Clinton Foundation, and then you hop in to work for Mueller, and you're suddenly investigating the president. That's a nice little revolving door.
Well, yeah, we've had Hillary Clinton's own fan club investigating her. Meanwhile, you've got these people who bring their anti-Trump bias to the Mueller investigation. Today, I asked Christopher Wray, did Mueller have a standard where people had to agree to hate the president in order to work for him? And Christopher Wray wouldn't answer that question as to whether or not there was a litmus test where people had to bring anti-Trump bias. But time and again, we see instances, and you know what, Laura? There's more to come. We're going to see time and again other circumstances. You didn't even mention Andrew Weissman, who was praising
we did
people,
that the other night.
Absolutely, who were actively defying the president of the United States.
Jim Jordan posed a question today about Peter Strzok to the Christopher Wray. Let's watch.
Did Peter Strzok help produce and present the application to the FISA court to secure a warrant to spy on Americans associated with the Trump campaign?
Congressman, I'm not prepared to discuss anything about a FISA process in this setting.
What was presented to the FISA court?
I do not believe that I can legally and appropriately share a FISA court submission with this committee.
I'm not sure that's correct, actually.
No, it's absolutely false.
And what the FISA court does is still, you can still have a check on that. Congress can still check on what the FISA court does. You have an obligation to do that. And who submits an application, that's not any type of confidential or classified information.
We don't want to live in a world where the FBI can use the fact that they've submitted documents to a court as a shield to oversight. We didn't get an answer as to whether or not the FBI used taxpayer money to go buy this dossier. And Peter Strzok, who hated the president, possibly was the person who packaged all of this together, brought it to the FISA court, and launched this entire false Russia collusion theory in the first place. It's absolutely ludicrous. Strzok is at the center of all this, and if Strzok is the person who prepared this application, everything else is fruit of the poisonous tree.
I was just going to say that. It was my law school days,
Laura,
Joel.
the system is working, okay? You want accountability. We've got accountability. We've got checks and balances here. You're finding these things out. We have transparency and
But why
sunlight.
should it be a treasure hunt to find out about Strzok? Why didn't, like, if I were Mueller and I wanted to really preserve the integrity of the investigation, in the summer when they relieved him of his duties, I would have come out and said, we found out something disturbing about a member of our team. We decided to proactively relieve him of his duties. They shipped him over to HR, which is kind of an odd place. I wouldn't have put him there. But nevertheless, I would have been very transparent about it.
It wasn't Mueller who found it out, though.
Instead of the,
It was
it was
the Inspector
IG.
General.
By the way,
These aren't self-reported by Mueller. These are circumstances where we have to have outside watchdog groups and the Inspector General come in and expose this double standard.
I am happy to be on the side of Bob Mueller. Bob Mueller served tours of duty in Vietnam, has a Purple Heart, has served honorably as our FBI director. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is he is somebody of impeccable character. He's somebody of impeccable character. So why would we assume that Bob Mueller is operating out of...
Because of who he's hiring. Look at who he's hiring.
So was Ken Starr hiring out?
We're going back to Scalia.
Well, I'm
but
just
look,
saying,
you have to shift ground
That
because
was
you
the
can't
worst
defend
argument
these
ever.
hires of Mueller that are blatantly anti-Trump. So you have to go back to Ken
validate the
Starr.
findings of the Whitewater investigation because Ken Starr had multiple people
I don't even think I was alive during the Whitewater investigation.
We barely were. We're about the same age.
Can I just, going back to this point, because I'm a lawyer and this really bugs me that you're trying to make any type of legal equivalency. Ken Starr's team, and I know those gentlemen very well, they happen to be, yes, many of them work for the Bush Justice Department. They, however, did not personally represent people who were antagonistic politically to President Clinton. They were not representing one side and then going to work on the other. That's a conflict, inherent conflict.
But they had political affiliations.
Everyone votes.
That doesn't mean that they can't make fair judgments.
They're not.
And why would you assume that Bob Mueller would put
I'll tell you why.
together people against Donald Trump?
Why? Because we have Bruce Orr at the Justice Department, who's been relieved of his duties because it turns out of his duty as Associate Deputy Attorney General. Because it turns out he was meeting with Christopher. See, we're moving on to why the integrity of the Justice Department is being questioned right now, and it's important. That's why Christopher Wray was up on Capitol Hill. Bruce Orr, very quickly.
Well, it's ludicrous that Bruce Orr had this type of access and brought this type of bias to bear. And look, it would be one thing if you had one person who expressed their viewpoint, but time and again, you continue to see circumstances, Orr, Strzok, Jeannie Ray, over and over again, people who hate the president investigating him. And by the way, the double standard is evidence in the fact that Hillary Clinton was investigated by her own fan club.
Well, we're out of time, Joel. We'll have you back. It's a short segment. Too short. Gentlemen, by the way, with partisanship raging in government agencies, CNN and MSNBC are questioning Trump's fitness for office over a speech he delivered yesterday, and this